Right, this is a quick road test video. This is for one of my favourite cars, I must admit. This is a Honda Legend 3.5 V6. This particular car is registered LK07NPO. Mileage at the start of this road test is 61,500 miles. Reason for the road tests is very simple indeed. We want customers to see the cars in operation prior to coming to see us. That way, if there's an issue with the car, or if there's anything we can feedback about the vehicle, we can do so. We're selling cars now to customers from all over Europe and the whole of the UK, and we just feel it's right that if you're willing to invest the time, energy and money to come see us, the least we can do is show you the cars in operation. And if there's anything untoward about the car, we can feed that back to you straight away. Brief background to the car. Very well looked after. All the servicing up until this very latest service has been done by the Honda main dealers, so clearly a very well looked after Legend. We've just serviced it. It's gone through a pre-delivery inspection and it'll be going off later today for an independent MOT. We don't do our own MOTs. It's actually done by a local classic car specialist. On the pre-delivery inspection, very little to report. Brakes are in fantastic order. Underneath the car's really nice. Very little to observe. All the electrics work absolutely beautifully. The only thing I picked up on, and I said I'm brutally honest on these videos, if there's something that wasn't quite right, the sat-nav was intermittent on the DVD drive in the boot. So what we're going to do is get that refurbished, so that'll go off. It's nearly always on the cars, you know, it's a 10-year-old car. It's a bit like having a DVD player at home. The lasers get sort of clogged up and dirty and erratic. Doesn't cost a lot, but that's going to be done prior to the car being sold. Screen, everything works absolutely perfectly, so that's all good. But as long as you know that's actually happening. So back to the drive of the car. Engine, it's just a wonderful unit. You're looking at nearly 300 horsepower, typical Honda V6 engine. It's got a really lovely sweet engine note. Engine starts absolutely straight away. There's no vibrations, buzzers, so that's just the parking sensors, by the way. Yeah, it's absolutely spot on. I mean, I'll speak more about the engine in due course and what it's all about. But in terms of what this video is about, which is to relay back anything to you that I can, you can be assured the engine is an absolute peach. It really is. Engine drives through into the gearbox of the vehicle. Gearbox, lovely shift quality to the gearboxes. The Japanese do these things really very well indeed. Gear changes are almost imperceptible. Really well judged ratios, suit the power delivery of the engine really nicely. But again, just sort of feeding back. I mean, what you should be looking for on any gearbox, of any age really, especially automatics, put them into neutral when the engine's nice and warm, when the gearbox oil's nice and warm, then select either drive or reverse and just see if there's any delays or clonks, and there's nothing at all. It's rock solid, which it absolutely should be at this mileage. Clearly, this is, at least it's just a quarter of the miles the car's easily capable of doing. So, I wouldn't expect there to be anything on it. But just to report it, all absolutely fine. Car tracks absolutely bullet straight. There's no vibrations coming through the steering wheel at all. There's not an ounce of wear in the steering. When I turn the wheel, there's no slack in it at all, which sometimes you can get with a bit of age and mileage, even low mileage ones. Not Legends, it's all cars in general. Likewise, the suspension of the car, when I looked underneath it, all in really fine order. And again, the fact that the Honda main dealers looked after it suggests that they'll have kept on top of anything. What I'm really kind of listening out for is the obvious noises that you sometimes get with a bit of age, and that's the little sort of tremors and clonks, which are normally associated with a bit of kind of strut wear or drop links, which have got a bit of movement in them, and it just translates into a kind of slightly old feeling car. Whereas this one, no, it drives absolutely tight as a drum. It genuinely, it really does. When I did the pre-delivery inspection, noticed that the brakes, the discs were absolutely superb. I reckon they may be quite recent actually, because there's hardly a lip on them at all, and the brake pedal is, suggests exactly the same, because there's as soon as you touch the brake pedal, there's no vibrations. It's just a solid feeling pedal, and there's no pulsing on the pedal at all. Big, heavy, powerful automatic cars put a lot of pressure on their brakes, and rely on them a lot more than a standard manual car. So that that can be something that can sort of raise its head if it's not been well maintained. But again, absolutely super. Driving along, listening out for noises that shouldn't be there in terms of wind noise. These are very quiet cars. Obviously, if someone was to damage a door seal, or a windscreen had been fitted badly, if it had been damaged, or a sunroof wasn't sealed quite right, then you'd have a really annoying wind hiss, which would get into the car and sort of spoil what the whole point of this sort of refined driving is all about. But there's nothing. It's very quiet indeed. Looking around inside the car, it's in really beautiful condition. Fantastically built cars. They really are superbly made. Solid. All the plastics look in absolutely fantastic condition. They really do. And it genuinely is a credit to its previous owners, because it really is in lovely condition. So I'm just going to swing around, and this is quite a good point to do it. So, but I love the lighter interiors on these now. I wasn't always a fan of light interiors on cars, but I must admit, as time goes on, maybe I'm getting older. Well, I am. I just like the fact that it's slightly brighter inside. Black interiors are fine, they look very smart, but they are slightly oppressive and dank and miserable on days, especially during the winter months. This is a really warm feel about it, all in beautiful condition. Aside from the CD drive in the back, everything's working absolutely beautifully on the car. Everything I've pressed thus far. I mean, you're looking at a huge specification car, of course. Heated seats, electric memory seats, the tilt and telescopic electric memory adjusted steering wheel as well. Multifunction steering wheels all working beautifully. But it's a lovely place to sit and drive a car. So in essence, said the whole point of the video is really just to sort of relay back to you anything that I can feel. And I've had 2 or 3 Legends, so I do. I'm talking from a lot of experience of these particular cars. Some very low mileage ones, some higher mileage ones, and this drives as well as anything I've ever owned. It's absolutely tight, taut, crisp. Everything about it's every button you press, every input you make into the car has that lovely, just fresh off the production line almost feel. It's got that really tight feel about it. But coming back to the car itself, I still maintain this is one of the best Q cars. It isn't your obvious choice. It isn't a 535 BMW or big engine Merc or anything like that. This is something for the it's more of a kind of I don't know, it's probably wrong to say it, but it's more of a sort of thinking man's car. On days that we've just had, miserable, horrible kind of winter days where you got slimy road surfaces. These big executive cars are great, great for travelling, but you put your foot down hard in a 300 horsepower rear-wheel drive car, and you'll soon find just how treacherous, modern cars can be, with rear-wheel drive and sort of partially worn tyres. The super handling all-wheel drive, which I know is a long name for it, is probably the best four-wheel drive system anywhere in the world. Not just for its utter reliability, we've just never had an issue with one, and I certainly don't want to tempt fate, but that seems par for the course for Legend. But it's just the way it works. It is absolutely brilliant. These are deceptively very, very, very capable cars at covering distances, long distances, very quickly, very comfortably, and very, very, very safely and sure-footedly. They're wonderful cars. The engine, gearbox, and chassis really are, cliched, but they are in harmony. They really are. It's got a stonking engine that it's sweet as a nut, but pulls and pulls and pulls and pulls. But it's got a lovely hard-edged engine note. Sweet but hard-edged. It feels race engine like when you put your foot down hard. But the corners like this, long sweeping left-handers, going to come into a much sharper nearly 90-degree right-hander, which, carrying a bit more speed than the normal, just a turn of the wheel, holds its line, beautifully composed, not a lot of body roll, and you could do that in the wet as well. I mean, that's where these things are just brilliant, brilliant, brilliant cars. I genuinely love them, I really do. But I also like the fact that they are rare. But also, that mechanically they're incredibly tough. It's not to say they never go wrong. Of course they do. Cars are cars, but the repair bills for a Legend compared to someone driving a 10-year-old BMW or Mercedes or Audi A8 or something similar, chalk and cheese. Absolutely chalk and cheese. The only car of its vintage which would be as reliable would be something like a Lexus. But they don't operate with four-wheel drive, and they're slightly different. I mean, I love them, but they're more about cruising than having any kind of agility to them necessarily. These are just a really lovely car to go along in, to hustle if you need to, but eminently just very, very, very capable cars. Coming back to the interior of the car, sorry, I do find myself wittering on these because I do love them. But dashboard, everything on the dashboard's working beautifully. Gauges are really nice, simple, easy to use. Information is basic, which is what I really like about the car. It's not giving you anything more than you need or less than you need. But look at the temperature gauge there, running at a third, which is exactly the way it should be on the car. But nice, simple to assimilate information on the car. Wonderfully comfortable driving position, very natural. Not always a given. Some cars you sit slightly askew, but this is pretty much straight ahead. Seats, the right side of softer, but not too soft, where you get bad backside, suffer with that terribly. Over long distances you'll be very comfortable in these, and all the bolsters feel absolutely fantastic. Really, really supportive still, even after all these years. But anyway, that kind of brings the video to an end. If there's anything on the video I've missed, it's certainly not by intent or design, please do give us a call. But based on this test drive, you'll be coming to see and drive a really wonderful car.